What's up, guys? Today a video on the logical assertion of belief and how to speak when you're in an argument with logical precision. Okay, so here are three logical statement forms. A, I believe that X is the case. B, I believe that X is not the case. C, I do not believe that X is the case. So what are the differences and similarities between these things, right? First of all, primarily, they're all about the person's belief, primarily. But secondarily, two of these statements are making a claim, and the other one is not actually making a claim. It's not taking a position one way or the other, okay? So A says, I believe that, right? They're really just asserting what they believe. And you can believe anything you want at any given time. But the fact is that truth exists independently of how you feel about that and independently of what you want to believe. Reality is as it is, and having faith in that is really all the grounding we need to know anything or have the motivation to pursue truth in anything, right? So anyway, it's primarily about one's belief, which honestly, in the grand scheme of things, doesn't really matter. It's logically irrelevant to the statement itself. But it is an affirmative claim. It is affirming something. It is making a claim. The key part of the statement is X is. X is a placeholder. It can stand, anything can stand in for it, okay? X is the case. It's an affirmative claim. B is actually the same, but the negation of A. All right, I believe, again, it's about belief, which who gives a fuck what you believe? I believe that X is not the case. That's the key part of this phrase right here. So it is a negation. It's a refutation of this affirmation. Let's assume that X stands for the same thing in both of these statements, okay? Again, it could be anything. I'm talking about the form of an argument, not about the content, okay? So this is actually an affirmation, just like A. It's the affirmation that A is false, okay? So in A, you're taking a side. In B, you're taking another side. And one can make either of these claims, regardless of the amount of critical thought or reasoning or evidence that they put into that claim whatsoever, right? You're allowed to do that. You're entitled to believe whatever you want to believe. But truth, again, remember, is as it is, regardless of what it is that you personally believe. There is no my truth. There's only truth, and you're on board or you're not, all right? That's what realism should mean, but that's a philosophical issue we're not getting into today. Now, C, on the other hand, says, I do not believe that X is the case. So, in this statement, the primary and secondary, compared to these statements, part of the statement is that I do not believe. I am not asserting my belief that X is the case or that X is not the case. This is to not take a position to begin with. All right. Now, I'm going to read what I wrote up about this, which I posted on Twitter. Most people, most of the time, make A and B types of statements. They're claiming that something is one way, or they're claiming that something is not that way. And that's really the fundamental basis of, say, political argument, which is meant to be divisive and meant to sway people into believing a thing and some other people into believing that thing is not true, which is to take a position, when really it's all just a distraction to begin with. And you should be taking the C approach. You should simply come from the fundamental standpoint, the initial standpoint anyway, pending evidence one way or the other, pending reasoning that will shift you one way or the other, that you do not believe blindly that X is the case or that X is not the case. Because either way, you're committing to something, okay? But most people, most of the time, especially when their sympathies are engaged and appealed to, make A or B statements. So they get caught up in tribalism, right? Without an ounce of critical thought or even evidence. Now in C, I do not believe blindly anything, is the power of Stoic indifference, which is the only reasonable starting point from which to accurately analyze any bit of information. It is very rarely the case that we can actually know anything. Remember, the theory of correspondence says that a statement about something is true insofar as it corresponds to that event in reality. But there's no one-to-one connection between words that we have and phenomena in nature, right? So there's that fundamental disconnect that correspondence theorists just can't seem to reconcile. In coherence theory, it's great to have internal coherence within a structure, right? But no amount of internal coherence can prove the structure itself true, because you need to make a statement or have a theory which accounts for that theory itself. It has to account for the process of theorizing. It has to account for that structure. So you have to detach, as the Stoics taught us, detach from your subject matter, right? As I like to say, watch the river from the bank, learn from other people's mistakes. Only then can you navigate the bank toward truth, or navigate the river toward truth, right? At some point, you have to hop back on that raft and ride the waves, ride the currents, but it doesn't hurt to watch a few people drown before you get out there and do your thing and take risks. It's a calculated risk, right? So anyway, this gives us the Stoic indifference and detachment that we need to start from a baseline of, I don't care. I don't have a set belief one way or another. Even if I am emotionally swayed one way or another, I'm going to detach. I'm going to start from, ground zero and work my way up to, building an argument that is most reasonable, right? Considering counter arguments along the way. So it's very rarely the case that we can know anything, because no amount of internal coherence even can prove something wholly true, right? But alas, the ego wants to think otherwise. The ego wants to think that we can know things all the time, about everything all the time. And it's just not true, all right? Because that would be to transcend our own existence. We are limited, fallen, fallible beings, all right? Limited capacities for reasoning, and we're actually not that good at reasoning. At the end of the day, we tend to follow our feelings, But herein lies the problem of knowledge. And I described some of that just now between correspondence and coherence, the problems with each, right? And this is well beyond the scope of empirical reasoning, because empirical reasoning only happens within the framework of the scientific method. Scientific method only describes or seeks to describe individual, atomized phenomena in nature and the mechanistic aspects of that. So it's only one very small part of reality, right? What is knowledge, though, in general? Knowledge is not awareness of facts. Knowledge is the structure, or knowledge is the awareness of the metaphysical patterns which give structure and meaning to facts. And, by the way, to everything else that we can know that is not fact-based, like faith, hope, love. All right, the three virtues. For example, an atom inside of our body is intrinsically irrelevant, apart from and outside of how it serves the molecules that it builds, which are also irrelevant outside of how they serve cells, which are irrelevant outside of how cells serve tissues, right? Which serve organs, which serve organ systems, which serve organisms, which serve minds, right? In the case of rational human persons who have minds, which serve life itself. And that's our goal, to serve life itself. Okay? And to serve truth with a capital T, or God with a capital G. So this is where wisdom comes in. Okay? Because intelligence, remember, is just your ability to make deductions within a closed system. Roughly speaking, that's what intelligence means. But there's no correlation between being able to do that and being able to question and observe the structure itself. That is wisdom. Okay? Wisdom is the intuitive moral awareness, also, of how to live, how to serve, that is. Patterns and orders of truth beyond ourselves. Okay? So you must first observe, with no motivation, with no goal in mind. And do so with an attitude of gratitude. Gratitude is the default attitude. Because if you don't have that, you will fall victim to apathy, right? And to all of the negative existential effects of unknowing. So anyway, that's my video today. Hope you enjoyed it. See you in the next one. Cheers.